So this is the story of my life. At one moment, you're on top of the world, then bam, it all comes crashing down. It is the same with wrestling too, because some folk go out there all ready to perform and they've got big smiles on their faces or who knows what. When, reality goes, you thought something good was going to happen, I say no. So let us be kind to people that may have memories like this, because yes, hello, my name is Simon Miller. This is one of those 10 photos that preceded unfortunate events. Number 10, Shane McMahon at WrestleMania 39. So I was there for this, and I tell you live, I have no idea what happened. Because as Shane McMahon did make his surprise return to have a match with The Miz, he whipped The Miz off into the ropes, he went through a drop kick, and when he landed, he just fell on the floor like somebody had sniped him. As it turned out though, he'd actually tore his quad off the bone, and I tell you, the irony of this, because of course, if you go back to that Royal Rumble where both Batista and John Cena eliminated themselves, who came out and pulled both their quads in the ring, not too dissimilar to this, it was Shano's dad. Also, do not forget that just in everyday life, it is so rare to do this kind of an injury, so talk about an unfortunate event. Although fair play to Snoop Dogg, who was also out there, and The Miz, they went and did their own impromptu match, with Snoop Dogg winning after the people's elbow. Now that was an absolute delight, but as for everything else, well, it just makes me feel upset in my tum-tum. I know some people laughed at this, and I do get it, but can you imagine how awful that must feel? Especially if you do it in front of like 70,000 people. That is quite the horrid turnaround though. I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy. Number 9, CM Punk, All Out 2022. So yes, let's look at this picture of CM Punk right here. It is minutes before, or moments before I should say, his world title match with Jonathan Moxley. And even though he's about to become the world champion, well, it doesn't really look like a happy cat. And that's because he wasn't very jubilant at this time, because after he had won this championship, he was gonna go backstage and sit down for that press conference. My word, he was going to let a lot of people have it. Now people are just going to talk about this until we all do die, and there's no point going through the beats. He just got every single thought he had in his head, and he threw it out there into the public, and as I've said from day one, while we can get into the nitty-gritty, I always like to think about the human beings behind this. I mean, they can't have been happy at all. It must have been a very difficult situation all round. Punk had also injured his tricep here, so I bet he was just like, oh my gosh, this has gone totally wrong. Which is why, again, when you do go to that picture, well, maybe he kind of already knew. So in hindsight, it was just a horrible situation, which is why I think the parting of the ways probably was for the best. Sometimes you just have to let birds fly. Now AEW's in a better place and CM Punk is back in WWE. I just hope that everyone can get back to being a pleased Paul. Number 8, Kenny Omega before the bomb. So this is but one reason I do love Kenny Omega, because how did he respond after he was doing his exploding barbed wire death match? And we really didn't get the explosion we were hoping for. He laughed it off, he did a bit of a joke, and he shrugged, he was like, well, you know, shit happens, let's move on. Now, he was totally annoyed about this in the moment for sure, because at Revolution 2021, he did engage in this absolute war with Jon Moxley, and that's the real reason this sucks, because everybody talks about the finish. If you go back through this fight, oh my gosh, they basically kill each other. Omega even wore a neat leather jacket at one point as a wink, wink, nudge, nudge to the Japanese legend, but again, none of this gets discussed. Because when it was time for something to go bang, well, we basically got sprinklers because of a technical issue. Poor Eddie Kingston was out there too, sort of trying to save this life of his best friend. I mean, it just really didn't work. Seriously though, make sure you find some time today to go back through the whole thing. And at one point, Kenny does this drop kick into Moxley, who falls into whatever, and he basically does get set on fire. I mean, that's a huge exaggeration, but still. They really do put themselves through hell, however. That's why I think they do need a shout out. But yes, hey ho, it's so happy in this picture. Little did he know. Number 7, Steve Austin takes a big old suplex. So this is why wrestling is terrifying. Because if you did indeed see this suplex in real time, you would probably think nothing of it. But when you do freeze frame it, that is a scary thing. I mean, you really don't know where you're going to land. I mean, you hope you're going to go down the right place, but what if you don't? Because indeed, this is from SummerSlam 1997, where it was Steve Austin versus Owen Hart, and a few minutes after this, they were going to go for that tombstone pile driver, and Austin was going to land right on his neck. The whole thing was basically going to shatter. It would spark off a bunch of injuries that were going to cut his career short, but also, he was never going to take another maneuver like this again. Something where he could potentially land on his head? No thanks. The conversation these days, of course, is how smart Steve Austin was, because he went and totally reinvented his in-ring style, became a brawler, and when he did become the face of the Attitude Era, this was the kind of main event that people expected. And I tell you this, that does not happen without Stone Cold and the way he maneuvered his way through the industry. Even with all that though, of course, it's health and wellness first when it comes to the performers. But I riddle you this, my friends. Let's say this injury didn't happen and Steve Austin didn't change his ways. Well, what the hell would have happened from 1998 and beyond? I mean, it's on a postcard because we're never gonna know. Number 6, Shawn Michaels poses to the crowd. So there is no way the photographer taking this picture had any idea what was meant to happen. I mean, nobody did. Because indeed, this is from the 1997 Survivor Series in Montreal. They're the only words that I need to say. I mean, if you don't know, my word, book off the next week, you win for a treat. It just has so much extra story to it because, of course, Shawn Michaels had been clued up, but even here, I suppose he'd been told, listen, HBK, you have to act like nothing is wrong. Just go out there and be your usual smug, obnoxious heel self. So it's quite saying something that he was able to pull that off. And once again, this is another match you should go back and check out for round 2. Because while, understandably, we do just talk about the finish, beforehand, I tell you, it's a really good battle and a really good fight. Still, even with this moment that you're looking at right now, after about 15 minutes, Michaels would be locking the sharpshooter. He would reverse it. Once again, he would change the course of wrestling history forever. Number 5, a snarling Rock means business. So as soon as you do see that Royal Rumble skirting on the apron and the Rock looking all mad like he is a heel, you do probably know we're going back to 1999. Now here obviously the Rock is looking mad because he is the bad guy and he's about to have a WWE title match with Mankind. But given that it was going to be a night quit match, well, once again, I don't think anybody expected this. Because while multiple chair shots to the head had been approved, nobody, and I mean nobody, thought we were going to get into the double figure range, and by the time The Rock had hit the 10th one, well, it was like that Simpsons clip, would somebody please stop the damn match? It was just horrendous to watch, especially when you do learn that Mick Foley's family were in the audience, and they were so traumatized by this, they had to leave. And you would do, because again, if you go back and watch this now, it is a little bit like an assault. Mick Foley's hands are handcuffed behind his back. So it really was unbelievably brutal, and while I suppose you could say it added to the drama of the damn thing, let's sum it up in a nice little package and never do anything like this again. Number 4, a sullen Sting. So the constant question, especially recently, is who killed WCW? Now the answer is a lot of people, but it was also stupid booking decisions like this. And this one goes all the way back to December 1997, because for a year building up to this, Sting had been hanging out in the rafters, looking at the NWO, basically judging them and thinking, oh my gosh, you are ruining this company that I love. When he eventually did fly down and started beating the hell out of Hulk Hogan and the rest of them, the fans went crazy, and that left us all with the same feelings in our tum-tum. Well, that pay-per-view is just around the corner. The Icon can beat Hulkamania and finally bring the title back home. Great. Instead, we got shenanigans like fast counts that weren't fast counts, and Bret Hart coming out and saying, man, we've got to restart the match, and now I'm the referee. And backstage news, the Hulk Hogan had his political bone right smacked into this, going around saying, oh man, I don't think Sting wants to do business. What? It's likely why Sting does look so damn morose here, because he had been told we're not going to keep this simple, and that's all we had to do. And instead, we went out there and did 2 + 2 = potato. Just have Sting win. Even if he lost the belt on Nitro, who cares? Also, it does bring up the other part of this, because Hulk Hogan didn't think Sting was in the right frame of mind. If that's the case, why the flub were you letting him wrestle to begin with? There was so much bad here, to be honest. I mean, we had an open goal, and we took the ball, and we booted it into next week. Number 3, Chris Jericho and the cardboard. So I really get annoyed about this one, because if I am stood on top of a wrestling cage, and somebody is going to push me off backwards, you bet your ass that wherever I'm landing better be covered like a damn pillow. Because no, I don't care how it looks. I want it to be protected. I don't want to die. And say what you want about Chris Jericho too, but by this point with his legacy, he doesn't have to be taking crazy bumps like this. But he did go to a top of that structure, and yeah, he took a backwards fall. Wherever you are now, pretend that you are going to fall backwards, even if you're like 1 foot off the ground. It's pretty darn scary. It was also the first ever blood and guts match, so AEW wanted to make sure it packed a punch, but yeah, I guess from a production point of view, they didn't really shoot this in the right way, because when Jericho did crash land, well, it was quite obvious that he'd just fallen into cardboard. I still found it baffling because all wrestling fans cared about was this, as if they wanted to kill a wrestler for real, although I totally understand why you want to suspend your disbelief, and when something is this blatant, yeah, you can't do it. But what you can do is go, oh, well, that didn't work as planned, let's go do something else. And yes, it also took away from the fact that MJF was trying to kill Chris Jericho here, but still, look at this picture. I still think it's quite scary. I mean, who the hell wants to do that? Balls of steel. So I will always be on the side of the wrestlers, because we always need to go out there and make sure that nobody's going to get hurt for real. But on the other side of the coin, yes, if we can do it in a way where it still looks dangerous, well, that's the magic sauce. Number 2, the end of Neville. So this picture actually carries a lot more weight. It kind of summed up how a lot of wrestlers were feeling about WWE at the time. Because in 2017, so many wrestlers did want to leave the company because they didn't feel like they were being utilized in the right way. which is not the case in 2024, and in fact the whole roster sounds very happy, and the whole damn place is on fire. Figuratively. Back then though, Neville, or now Pac, did not feel the same way because he had been stuck in the cruiserweight division and he was losing matches to Enzo Amore. Now there's nothing wrong with that, but seriously, just go back and watch the TV. I don't think WWE gave a damn at all. Because he had been defeated by Enzo too, he was told to do this and come out to the ring looking all like, oh my gosh, I can't sleep and I'm totally disheveled. But given that a couple of weeks after this, he quit for real, well, there may be more to it. It's why he has that frazzled hair and the haunted face, and let's not forget, he was stuck in career limbo after this. I mean, he really did have to fight for his freedom, and back then and now, still one of the best wrestlers in the world. That's probably why he was so annoyed he wanted to prove himself. Number 1, the end of the Survivor Series. So this was a work of art by WWE. Bravo. But at the end of the 2023 Survivor Series, the good guys had won the War Games match and the camera panned out to look at the wonderful Chicago arena and it just felt like we were gonna have happy times. We even got the WWE copyright logo, and then hell froze over. Because Cult Personality started playing, we got one of the biggest pops in modern history because yes, CM Punk had returned to World Wrestling Entertainment. And I tell you, from a personal point of view, I never thought that was going to happen. I mean, without all those changes we just mentioned in the promotion, I don't think it would have done. And of course, instantly, Seth Rollins freaked out and started shouting stuff, and Drew McIntyre, well, he went backstage, and the rumor was he left for good. Well, not for good, but he left on this night because he couldn't believe it. So all the good times had been replaced by fear instantly, and look, this was probably a wrestling work, but it got the world talking, which is why I'm such a big fan of it. Even now, people are like, do you think Seth and Drew were pissed for real? I mean, probably not. But the fact I said the word probably. What matters most of all is that we took this and turned it into amazing feuds with Seth Rollins and Drew McIntyre, and they haven't even had matches with Punk yet, because he got injured at the Royal Rumble. And while that sucked, I'm sorry, this is like wrestling genius to keep up the interest even though one guy can't go. But once again, we give it a round of applause. It comes back to that phrase that we all do not have to believe in. When it comes to pro wrestling, you never say never. Now, of course, there will be millions of other photos that preceded unfortunate events in wrestling, so drop them in the comments below. Like the video, share the video, and subscribe. And if you would like me to shout at you a little bit more, click the video on the screen. Most of all, though, thank you so much for your time, my friends. I appreciate it. You take care. I'll see you on the next one.